Hello everyone, I am the Weather Dude. Welcome back, and today we're going to be talking about 3 additional potential tropical cyclones that we have to watch very closely out in the Atlantic. Before we get started, however, be sure to like and subscribe, as this does help this video reach more people, and this is very important information we're going to talk about in today's video because all 3 of these cyclones do have the potential to impact some kind of land mass. Alright, so we're going to get started here. So here we are on the National Hurricane Center website. As you can see, Henri is now officially remnants, although be careful because minimum central pressure is still very low, so it's still a pretty dynamic looking system on satellite. But if we look at the 3 systems we're going to talk about here today, all 3 of them have a 40% chance of development in the next 5 days. Alright, and you can see most of them have a very low chance of forming in the next 2 days, so this is probably going to be a several days out kind of event here. And we're going to start with disturbance number 1. This one, if you are on National Hurricane Center's website a couple of days ago, you probably would have saw it. This was the first system that was recognized. Had a low chance for a while and it got bumped up to 40. We're seeing disorganized showers and storms. Little development is expected over the next couple days because of those ocean temperatures, but after that, the waters are going to start getting a little warmer. You kind of know the environment Henri went through near Bermuda. The waters were warm, so once it gets towards closer to Bermuda, we could see gradual development towards the end of the week, while the system moves northwestward at an average speed of 10 to 15 miles an hour, which again is pretty average in the central Atlantic. Alright, and system number 2, this was the second one to get recognized. The third one was actually added very recently. The second one is a tropical wave over the eastern Caribbean, and it's going to form an area of broad low pressure in the southwestern Caribbean Sea. And then after that, the conditions will become more favorable for gradual development. And I will say, the models were really picking up something. Obviously, we're going to be looking at the models a little bit later, but the models are really picking up something on that system there. All right, and the third system, this one was relatively new, and like right when they brought it in, they already gave it a medium shot of development right off the bat, which is really interesting. So this is disturbance number 3, another area of disturbed weather, association with a broad low pressure system over the eastern Atlantic, and it's south-southeast of Cabo Verde Islands. We could see some slow development over the next couple of days, while it moves around 15 miles an hour to the west and west-northwest over the eastern tropical Atlantic. So I believe this has been designated 97L, this system right here, and this one is 98L, I'm pretty sure. I don't think the wave out here actually got named an Invest as of right now. So on the satellite here, we have Invest 97L, and yeah, it doesn't look like very much. There's not much in the way of convection. Picking up some sort of center here. Alright, and there's been a little flare-up of thunderstorms over the past couple of hours here. But most of the, like the convection, you can really see it kind of weaken, right? There were some yellows and oranges, and those cloud tops kind of started warming up a little bit. But there is some sort of trying to work some kind of outflow that could also be just wind shear. But the storm is trying to breathe. But, I mean, you can already see the clouds are trying to blow that way. And you can see the convection is trying to move this way. So the storm doesn't look very, very appealing on the satellite as of right now. Now this is going to be moving towards the north and west according to these set of models here. Surprised there are actually not many models picking up on this. These are only models that are showing it right now, but they do generally agree on a northwest path through the Atlantic. And you can see Bermuda's right here. So we'll see if this can get caught up in like a frontal system and it get pushed out to sea. That'd be the most likely play out. But of course, we know that, other things can happen. I mean, Henri was supposed to wrap around Bermuda and go out to sea, and that did not happen. So we'll be watching for that. And you can see a little drop in pressure here, below 1,010 millibars. But again, when you're looking at the GEFS, look more so for track, not intensity. So again, bringing it to the north and west towards Bermuda is the data we have right now. Even though I just set this up, I am constantly refreshing just in case new models get added in. But if we look here at the GEPS model tracks, you can see again a northwest path, but it's very spread out, right? We got some models bringing it this way, some this way. Obviously, a further south track would have a higher probability of affecting the United States in some way. Bermuda could still be in the path as well, and of course, some tracks do bring it farther north in latitude, and do make it a decently strong system. However, the intensity guidance, as you can see, like the National Hurricane Center was saying, over the next couple of days, really not much in the way of development. But once we get out past that, as it gets towards Bermuda, then the strength goes up, and the models start to point out a tropical storm and even a Category 1 hurricane. All right. So here we have invest 98L that was 97. This is 98. Now we're still going to be talking about the third wave as well, but it has not been designated as an invest yet. You can definitely see there is a center, kind of like a low-level center trying to form in there at 98L. You can see there is a little bit of rotation, counterclockwise rotation, and the convection. Like, look at this recent spring of convection right here. All right, so it's developing a decent amount of convection. Of course, most of it is on the west side. And again, you can see the low-level center sitting somewhere right in there, and it's going to continue to plow its way to the west. So, comparing to 97L, this looks much better on satellite. Again, here's 97L, and here's 98. All right, so a recent spring up in convection, I know. So model track guidance, there's only one model, and it brings it to the north and west. I don't know why there's not many models. Probably because this storm just got recognized in Invest very recently, so not many models are out on it yet. So tomorrow we'll probably get some more runs out on it, some more model runs, so we'll see. GEFS tracks looking a little messy, but if we look at the GEPS model tracks here, you can see they do bring it to the north and west, or west-northwest, and then making a more northerly turn out to sea, but a pretty strong storm. All right. Now again, look at this for track more so than intensity, but we could see a drop below 1,005 millibars, or quite a few even have it going below 1,000. All right, so that's pretty low pressure. And if we look at the intensity guidance, that does show as well, right? A pretty, sustainable, or excuse me, like kind of like almost like a linear intensity strengthening, all right? Up to a Category 1 hurricane is what all these few models are saying. And then, again, but we don't know where the track, what these models are calling for in terms of the track. So they could be out to sea by this point. It could be heading towards the United States. We don't really know. All right, so let's look at the environment for all three of these systems. So first, let's talk about, all right, our Invest 97L, which is staying at about 37 degrees west and about 16, all right, degrees north. So sitting somewhere in this kind of environment right now. So some warmer than average water, I would say for sure. So yeah, pretty much right about here. And it's going to be tracking sort of in this direction. Now, even though the anomalies, and I'll pull up an actual like sea surface temperature graph so you can see, even though the anomalies are a little bit, like the waters are not as far above average up here as they may be out here, that doesn't mean the actual water temperatures themselves are cooler. That just means it's not as much above average. So I'll get into that in a little bit. And we have Invest 98L, or excuse me, the wave in the Caribbean. That's not 98L. The wave in the Caribbean, which is sitting at about 64 degrees west at about 12 degrees north. All right, and you can see sitting somewhere in here in the Caribbean, all right, not too far away from the Lesser Antilles, so it's staying in some above average water, and we'll continue tracking sort of in this direction, and it's going to be hovering around this area. All right, and even though there's above average water, we do have to watch out for some potential land interaction. And then 98L, sitting pretty far south actually, 22 degrees west and about 7 degrees north. So actually sitting pretty far south. All right, it's actually somewhere in here, maybe even a bit further south than that. All right, and it's going to be sort of tracking like in this direction through the East Tropical Atlantic. All right, so we'll get into the, in a little bit, we'll get into the actual sea surface water temperatures. But I want to actually get into the dry air and the other parts of the environment, like wind shear, etc. So if we look here, this is the wave in the Caribbean. I want to call it 99L, but it's not officially designated in Invest yet, so I can't really call it that. But here is our, we'll say potential for 99L, saying in the Eastern Caribbean. All right, and it's going to be tracking in this way. So really, it's pretty much avoiding the dry air, all right, as it could track maybe in this direction. So it should avoid most of the dry air. However, 97L, if you're wondering why there was no convection on the satellite, now you know. Because there's so much dry air that's pushing at it from its east, and we got dry air that's even rounding into it from the west. So this thing does not look good. Like, you could even see the more, like, see how, like, the Caribbean wave and even 98L, see how the gray color looks a little bit more like white? It's like a whitish color because there's more convection. This is almost like a visible satellite, if you will, mixed with the Saharan air layer. So notice in 97L how all the convection is like a darker gray, closer to black. And that means not as much convection associated with the storm system. And 98L is actually so far south that it's actually avoiding a good chunk of the dry air. So that's one good thing. And it could loop up to the north, so it may run into some dry air down the road. But for right now, it's in pretty good shape. All right. Now, wind shear. There is a big upper level low that's sitting right in here. You can almost see the center of it because that's where there's no wind shear. There's your upper level low, and here's the wind shear wrapping all the way around it like this, kind of like an upper level trough. So you can bet that the wind shear in the Eastern Caribbean is pretty high right now, which is preventing the potential Invest 99L, the Caribbean wave out there, from developing. But as it moves to the west, wind shear will drop, and if it does make a more northerly turn, wind shear around Mexico, for the most part, is pretty low. Like, we're talking less than 25 knots, which isn't too bad. If we look out to Invest 97L, which again is around 36, I believe it's around 36 degrees, or 37 degrees west actually, and 16 north. All right, so if we look at that, so it also is dealing with a little bit of shear, all right, for right now. But as it heads towards Bermuda, if it can move into, this area, the wind shear is not as high. But it's going to have to deal maybe with a little bit of that upper level low. Like, look to the east here. Like, wind shear in this area has increased 20 knots in just the past 24 hours. Like, that's insane. So we'll see. Shear, though, with the upper level low and that upper trough is remaining pretty high right now. Now, before we get into the sea surface temperature graphs and the models, I wanted to take a look sort of at the surface winds, and of course, then we'll get into the ocean water temperatures. So you can see the Caribbean wave is sitting at about here, or maybe more so up here. And there is some gusty winds that is associated with it, but nothing, it's not really like rotating very well. All right, at least according to the European model resolution, right? So here we have little O center right there. There is a good core of some stronger winds associated with 97L, but the convection is very lacking. All right, like, we're picking up some sustained winds according to the European of 33, and gusts going up past 45. Like, we're talking maybe even closer to 46 or even higher than that. So winds are pretty high with that system. And then we have our Invest 98L with the core of the stronger winds off to the just to the east, all right, of the storm center. All right, so about 20 miles an hour. But of course, that could be much higher than that. Other models sometimes do underdo that a little bit. All right, so I'm going to mark the location, all right, of all these storm systems. So we have our wave over there. We have 97L here, and we have 98L here. All right, now we're going to pull up the sea surface temperature graph so you can see what kind of ocean temperatures they're dealing with and what the path of these systems could be. All right, so we're going to like sort of highlight this area for this system, maybe sort of this area for this system, and then this area for the other system, just as an idea where they could potentially go. So where the eastern wave is sitting right now, around 84 degrees Fahrenheit, which is pretty warm. However, 97L is sitting at about 80-degree water, so slightly cooler waters than, although 80 is enough to form a sustainable tropical system, but that, of course, would be true if the wind shear and the dry air would have to be pretty low. If the wind shear and the dry air were a bit higher, and let's say the waters were like 87, 88, then it could maybe try and strengthen and counter a little bit. But if the waters are cool, just a little bit of shear and dry air can tear this thing apart. So here we have 98L over here, slightly warmer waters at 82. Now, future path, all right? The Eastern Caribbean wave could see some 85-degree and even 86-degree waters in the future. If we look at 97L, you can see around 83, 84, but again, that's as it gets closer to Bermuda. All right, so sort of like in this zone right here. So it's going to have to get a little bit farther north. I know that sounds weird to say, but it's true. It's got to get farther north to get into those warmer waters. And 98L pretty much could be staying the same, but waters could warm up a couple degrees once you get west about this point. 84-degree water sitting somewhere in here. So that's the actual water temperature. So again, like I said, even though the anomalies are not as high up here, that doesn't mean that the waters are cooler. So hopefully they understood that well. Now we're gonna look. Now we're zoomed out a little bit farther than usual, so we're gonna look at all three systems according to the models. So GFS, all right, as we head further in time, right here we are sitting, all right, at around. Let's go at about 24 hours or so. See, we are with day one. So here's our Eastern Caribbean wave trying to get itself together near South America. We have 97L over here, and we have 98L over here. All right. Now, actually, in terms of vorticity, actually, 97L kind of has the deepest shading of color, but 98L, I would say, has the organization. But watch as we head further out in time. All right, you can see that 98L is pretty much like disappeared. Like, it's really not much left of it. So they don't really do too much with that. But notice how 97L sort of trying to get itself together near Bermuda. It's kind of working around an upper level high. All right, that's sitting kind of like around here. It's going to sort of help to push it out to sea as well. It's a little weak. But here we have the Eastern Caribbean wave, which I think the models are honing in on the most. And notice how that really gets itself together near the Yucatan. But then look at 97L, right? It really starts to get, it really starts to form, but that's because of a more mid-latitude system that's forming. So it's kind of giving it some mid-latitude strength. Right? It's kind of passing down its strength. But look at this system over here. I know it does look a little tiny, and the storm actually is small, but it will look smaller than it actually is because we're zoomed out a bit further today. Then it makes landfall in Mexico, just like pretty much affecting both the Yucatan and central mainland Mexico, which just got hit, all right, by tropical storm, or actually, excuse me, major Hurricane Grace. All right, so it was a Cat 1 when it hit the Yucatan, and a Cat 3 when it hit the central mainland part of Mexico. All right, next model. We have the Canadian model now. Now, they do bring 97L a bit further north, right? Here we are at about Wednesday night. All right, looks a bit healthier, even though it's a pretty small system. Here's 98L over here. Here we have our Eastern Caribbean wave trying to get itself together. All right, now, notice this, though. The Canadian model brings our Eastern wave, instead of down here like what the GFS had, it brings it a little bit further to the north, and that could help it give some strengthening potential. All right, now look at 97L, turn into a literal absolute beast. Really not much happening with 98L, though. So you can see it right here. That's what they kind of turned it into. Excuse me, right in here. And another wave forming behind that. And then we have 97L, which they have, but again, it's out all the way out in the ocean, so not much impacts. Maybe some rough surf for the eastern United States, but it could even be too far out for that. But maybe some bigger waves. And then actually showing a really good forming waves. Two more actually coming off after that. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but I just want to say that waves do not usually look that good when they just came off of Africa, so that's a little concerning. That's for saving for a future discussion in a week's time, if that were to happen. European model here. All right, you can see 97L is right here. Whatever's left of 98L is out here. And you can see the Eastern Caribbean wave. But I think most of these storms were actually pretty newly recognized, so the models may have to pick up on it, and they have to get some more work done to get more investigation looked into them. So once the models pick up on them a bit more, we might see some more forecasting. But look at this. Look at what the European does here through the Bay of Campeche and the Eastern Caribbean wave, potential 99L. Could even be look at that. That's rapid intensification. Seriously, this is, I want to go back. This is Tuesday morning. I rewind to Sunday morning. All right, that system looks like it's nothing. Literally. All right, that's Sunday morning. Here's Monday morning, gets itself, it's that together, and then boom. That's pretty much a Houston landfall. All right, and then there's 97L becoming a beast as well, by the way. All right, so this looks very concerning for some areas. All right, and then and also slows down. Look at this is again Monday morning, Tuesday morning, hasn't moved much in 24 hours, but look at this, barely moves at all. Another 24 hours later, and even another 24 hours later, still very strong going through Texas, and another active wave coming off Africa, and then we have 97L up there. So maybe the concern not only is just 97L in our eastern wave system, at least according to the models, 98L doesn't look like too much, but we'll still keep an eye on it closely, of course. But what comes after that, another couple of waves, in the short term, another few tropical waves that we're going to have to watch very closely. So thank you guys for watching today's video. Stay tuned for updates. There will certainly be more coming. I am The Weather Dude signing off. Until next time, I will catch you guys in the next video.